can sign the paper, so if y'all
I always
can,
bring
work signs
crazy
last,
stuff.
can I get it?
You don't have a good memory.
Pretty please.
We leave the door open.
Anyone else need to sign it?
I haven't
I
got it
do.
yet.
I don't.
Leave the door open. Everybody sign in?
Yes.
You can have policy.
It is kind of musty, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, loading battery, not to be the notepad.
No, what's next?
Hey, you know what? Hey, Zoo, do me a favor. Go ask Sandra to send me a erasable marker, please.
I know where they are.
Huh?
Never mind.
Susie, where are they?
You're in Faheem.
Hey, would you go? Thank you.
What's he gonna play there?
Seriously?
You know, it's like when you're trying to walk by somebody and you're just dancing, you know what I'm saying? They go left, you go left, they go
Who
left.
all does not still have syllabuses for life skills? 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I don't have
1,
syllabus.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Did you count me?
Yep.
You can sit there,
We'll sit where?
right there. Is that what we're
I
doing?
counted you twice.
Okay, thought maybe you were changing spots.
Who? Now the people that do have syllabus, somebody let me see your syllabus.
Syllabus. I'm sitting right next to you.
Somebody get
I don't
me
care
that?
that I speak with a list.
I think he's got his arm down, you know, he can't move that elbow, right?
Hey,
Yes.
now look at here. Do you know where?
Like that?
He likes to be beat.
Why, thank you.
Oh, God, I can't give me, I didn't.
Did everybody sign in?
Exactly where you want to go.
All the noise now.
Did everybody sign
Or
in?
just give him one, because you know he always loses. I mean,
Ah.
he might misplace.
I know how to use a straight razor now.
Huh?
I know how to use a
trouble.
straight
I wouldn't be near you with a straight razor.
Not right now.
Oh, it's
Like, I'll shave your face? No.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Tillman.
Well,
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of As the World Turns. Like sands through the hourglass.
Oh,
You watching soap operas or something on your
These
free
are the days
time?
of our life. Hey man, you know, like, I was like everybody. I was like every other kid. My mother would sit there and watch that stuff because I knew I couldn't watch cartoons until her soaps was on.
Right?
And I'd be sitting there like waiting on 2:30 so I could watch the
We didn't even know
Flintstones.
cartoons on the soap.
You know, we had the whack cartoons back then. You know, we had like the Jetsons and the Flintstones.
Hey, don't
what's
forget
wrong
Looney
with
Tunes,
it?
man.
I love
I enjoyed them, but they, you know, they've since passed away.
Did you see Fraggle Rock? Do you remember that?
like the Fraggle.
I do too. That's my favorite.
like the Fraggle.
Listen,
Down to
we're-
Fraggle Rock.
Look, be afraid, be very afraid.
Fraggle Rock in the street.
I don't remember the song being anything like disco with the whoop whoop in it.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah, remix.
you know, okay, so let me get a
Captain Scrooge.
few disclaimers out of the way first and foremost, because there'll be some people that are new to the class and you guys won't necessarily be able to follow where we're at per se, but never mind, I'll get you a syllabus and you guys will start in the right classes that you're supposed to be at so you understand. My people that were in the first group know what we were going to do from last week. So today we're going to continue that discussion of the self and expound from where we are. So because of the scheduling and what happened today and everything kind of got backed up, I'm just going to condense the class. We'll probably do like a half hour and then you guys can get on about your day and do the stuff that you need to do, because you guys need to get down to community connections, RTD, and handle some stuff, and everybody else just need to, it's a nice day. You know what happens on a nice day is people like to get little.
Do we got that team, the meeting today?
What the
Community
yeah, but
meeting.
we're gonna get that done and out the way. Unless you guys want to sit here and wait until
I was just checking, just asking.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's that, the homework? As a matter of fact, just pass around everybody that had their homework, stacking on top of that sheet that Jennifer is using, and pass it. Actually run it counterclockwise so it'll come back this way to me. All right.
Huh? I just did it. I looked upstairs.
So that was, Jennifer, are you doing the definitions or are you doing a discussion on,
That was my definition.
okay, cool.
I'm gonna go sit back here so I can see. I can't see what you're doing.
Faheem, mine's in my notebook upstairs. I just left it like that.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, so for those of you who didn't know, life skills is kind of a generic term that we apply to certain skill sets that you should know in order to be successful, right? What we want to do though, having come from addiction, is look at ourselves a little bit more critically and begin to fill in the pieces or the blanks that we were missing or that we didn't have in order to effectively cope. You know, right now we're taking anger management, you know, life skills, coping strategies and all of that and all of those things. So collectively though, that body of work is all about what? That collective body of work is about you being functional under and in every circumstance, right? Oftentimes the connection between a good idea, or I should say the separation between a good idea and a bad idea, is that one moment of pause to think. Most of us, when we do what we do, we don't really have those kind of contemplative strategies. We usually get involved in a whole lot of thinking after we done fucked up or got caught in something that we otherwise had planned to get around. Or we run into a series of circumstances and we just don't have the skill set to critically assess and come to a conclusion of what we need to do in order to successfully get past it with as few scrapes as possible, right? So what we do, this is not an intellectual thing, because those are abstract terms that don't mean anything to nobody. So it doesn't matter how smart you are, you do stupid things. It doesn't matter how intelligent that you are. You know, oftentimes we make the wrong decisions and find ourselves in these places. It has nothing to do with how intelligent we are. It has to do with what we want and how our will drives us to acquire that. You can be smart as hell and still be in love with cocaine. You know, you can lose it all and still be in love with alcohol, right? It can cost you everything and you will still continue to do it. So that tells us what about addiction? That it has nothing to do with how much money you got, how intelligent you are, what kind of car you drive, whoever name you got on your ass. And then the other thing that we want to deal with too is the fact that, hey man, because I hear a lot, it's funny that the intelligent people always end up using their intelligence to keep them enslaved to their own addiction, right? And the reason that this occurs is because we don't understand the relationship. So quick review. What did we go over the last couple of weeks as we were dealing with the concept of the person? Anybody from any point, what have you, Mr. Hagerbrain?
Mind, body, spirit.
Absolutely. So, and that refers to what?
Well, your mind and body are talking to each other, while your spirit's going, what are you guys doing?
Exactly. So what we did, so the example that we used in order to describe this idea was inside of the community, inside of the healthcare community as it relates to psychotherapy, there is an agreement that these 7 pieces, these 7 labels that I'm putting on the board are the composition of the human mind, right? So those 7 things are will, drive, senses, ego, memory, reason, right? Quick overview: the will, the drive, the necessity to do what it is I want to do, the hunger, the calling, the need, the necessity, right? The drives, you know, that energy. How bad do I want it? You know, how far will I go for it? You know, do I want it bad enough that nothing can keep me from it? Or do I really not care enough to even get involved? Right? The senses: sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. How we interact with the physical environment and the abstract environment. Right? The ego, that part of our brain separated into 3 specific sections that deals with how we function. How do you see yourself? How do you see yourself in relationship to other people? How do you what kind of regard do you carry yourself in, and how does this impact all of the other things, right? Your memory, of course, is hot. Don't touch it. The next time I see it, I already know it. Don't stick my hand in, right? Reason, your ability to connect the dots. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't mean you're extra smart. It just means that it's a rational function of the mind to make sense out of what it sees when it sees it, right? Conscious. You know, now there's some argumentation about what that means and how it keys in everything else, but simply put, very generic, you know, your conscious mind is your cognitive ability to engage, interpret, understand, you know, utilize all of these functions to come to a conclusion, right? So what we said before with what Mr. Haneberg said is that the human composition then is mind, body, and spirit. Right? Everybody has heard that, right? Right? Okay, so again, we use two quick circumstances and life. So the plausible theory, and Miss Susie brought up a wonderful point yesterday. Again, what I'm telling you at this present moment is not established in anyone's database of facts but my own. You can either agree or disagree with the variables that I'm providing for you. My job is to provide you with a buffet, right? And inside of that buffet, you know, you got some chicken, you got some beef for the people that don't like swine, but you got some swine too, right? So the thing about it is, grab your plate and you want to put on the plate what you need for your sustenance. Make sense? So don't ever feel like I don't deal in concepts of right and wrong. I mean, for me as a person, it doesn't work. And the reason that it doesn't work is because, again, favorite example, 5 and 2, 6 and 1, 4 and 3. Different add-ins, same sum. So it doesn't cook my noodle that you don't see the world the way that I see it. You're not supposed to. The filters, the circumstances, the occurrences, the happenings, the interactions that I've had throughout my life forms and shapes the filter through which I formulate my opinion. As I begin to formulate that opinion, those opinions eventually become my belief. My belief becomes my truth. So before we get into that abstract argument about, you know, what is truth and the propensity of right and wrong, that ain't me. If you want to do that's cool. But the thing that we want to understand is that the impact from outside or external sources has a direct consequence on how these filters drive us. Make sense? So you say, well, Faheem, why are you getting into all this abstract stuff about something fairly simple? Because if addiction was as simple as everybody thought it was, you know, it would be easy to conquer, right? But in any type of solution-oriented move, you have to have an assessment and understanding of the problem, correct? Right? So just recapping, I asked you guys, I said, well, tell me about you. And in that tell me about you, we came up with I'm loving, I'm caring, I'm hopeful, I'm nice, I'm intelligent, I'm an asshole. All those are abstract labels that are designed to qualify your self-perception. But that's not who you are, right? Who you are is what we need to deal with. So let's get into this quick recap. So what I'm saying is, you can understand that your mind, body, and spirit, that's your human composition, right? We can understand that each one of these then has a specific appetite, right?
Thanks, man.
And when I use the word appetite, let's go back and clarify that, because the premise of this program is that everyone has an appetite, and that appetite is reflected as addiction. And the addiction is the appetite in an extreme state, Make sense? So in other words, it's saying that once you're addicted to whatever, I mean, it's not just drugs. You know, you like chocolate, you like sex, you know, you like, let me see, what's some strange habits in the world? I mean, you a dude that like women feet. You know, I mean, there's some strange stuff in the world as it relates to extreme habits, as it relates to extreme habits, and as it relates to extreme wants, needs, and desires, okay? So we equate that with appetite. So we say that there's nothing wrong with appetite because appetite informs us, right? When you hungry, you get that little growl in your stomach, you know, it's time to eat. When your lips get dry and pasty, you should have been having a drink. Right? I mean, those are the warning signs. Now, as a human being, we understand that there are things that you can feed the appetite for its maximum efficiency. Right? But we also understand that the stuff that's really worth eating is bad for you. Right? So if it ain't dipped in a whole, you know, if you got your choice between, let's say, Brussels sprouts and chocolate cake, you know, as a matter of choice, which one would you want? Exactly. Right? So the concept of appetite as it relates to addiction, as I'm using it then, means that there's a specific need for the components that make you who you are. The spirit, the mind, and the body doesn't eat the same food. Right? So the example that I used to clarify this was sensation or senses then are born in what? The body. They're not born in the mind. They're translated in the mind. So when you have a physical appetite, the physical appetite is more alluring and it's more challenging because it is an exacting tool. Sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. If chocolate cake tasted like banana pudding and banana pudding tasted like ass, you know, but if none of them had a taste, there would be no difference between ass and salad. I couldn't resist. I should have left that alone, but I couldn't resist that one, right? But what I'm trying to get you to understand is that it's that sensation that begins to help us separate and clarify the whole idea of like and dislike. You know what I'm saying?
Hey Faheem, in my school, we're learning about the same thing.
Good concept.
About ass and...
Right.
Touch and smell and
So,
all that.
well, come on, because it's a quick point. So let me feel you. Let me get back to it though. So the reason that I exacted this chart like this is because if you don't understand what the requirement is for each one of these, then what's happening? It's just like having a burglar in your house. You got a 10,000 square foot house, your alarm system just went off, and you identify that there's somebody in your home moving around. But the thing about it is, you don't know where they at. That presents a challenge, right? And the reason that that's dangerous is because in order for you to effectively deal with anything that isn't okay with you, you have to know from where it stems, right? So the relationship that we showed with narcotics was the body receives an injection, inhalation, whatever, for a product, right? That product is a chemical that alters the state and condition of the body. Well, what ends up happening is your body sends that information back to the mind through sensory perception, and your body going, hell yeah, right? And your mind goes, damn right, but then the mind does something interesting. When that sensation is sent here, the mind then interjects its own chemicals back into the body, creating what? Euphoria, ease, pleasure, good feelings, good vibes. It creates that hell yeah moment, right? So you say, well, why is that important to understand? It's important to understand because if you don't know why you dig it, you can't pull the body out the grave. You see what I'm saying? If you don't know what's being done to you, then you don't know why. So once the body sends that through sensory perception back to the mind, and then the mind dumps chemicals on more chemicals, it creates that euphoric state or that altered state, then some other stuff begins to happen in your mind, which is what? Now your mind starts doing some stuff that it didn't do before. You know, and you start having this self-talk conversation with yourself about what drugs allow you to do. So, guess what? Man, it makes me quicker. I think faster. I think slicker. Right? My inhibitions are down. Some stuff that I might not have gotten into. I done got into it. Might have gave me a little courage. You know what I'm saying? So we begin to deal with all of those false concepts because all the drug did was give us a good feeling and made our ability to be who we really are a little bit more clear, right? And I'm going to explain what I just said in a moment. And we already dealt with the concept that if it ain't in you, you can't imagine it. You know what I'm saying? If you wasn't a go-getter before you started drinking, smoking, and tooting, you're not a go-getter afterwards. So if you're a go-getter while you're under the influence, you was a go-getter from the get-go. But the thing about it, though, is you had to get rid of that nervousness. Have you ever practiced something for the first time? And then when it was time for you to go live with it, you were still kind of nervous? Yeah. You know, I practiced boxing for 2 years before I got in the ring. I was competent. But when I actually got in the ring, there was still that moment of, man, I'm not sure. You know what I mean? But had I jumped into that ring when I was off that Pyrex, it'd have been like, let's get it. You see what I'm saying? So that's the false reality that's created, right? And then the reason that it becomes so good and sexy to you is because the body and the mind now gets locked into this cyclical clown relationship where it's feeding off each other. Hey, I just had something, it felt really good. Let me turn you on to it. Hey man, you're right, what you took felt really good, but if I add on to it, it's gonna feel even better. Now, guess what ends up happening? What ends up happening now is what we're doing is absolutely wrong, but what just happened was your senses, your drives, your will, your reason, and your memory are now operating against you. How they operating against you? Because now you go, I done fucked up.
Wouldn't that include ego? Because you're like, damn.
Well, actually, you know what? It would actually include all of them.
Okay.
And so what I'm trying to show is that each one of these facilities don't represent independent controls.
Right.
They don't drive you, you drive them. So what ends up happening is, because we don't understand what's going on, when you begin to engage in the self-talk with that drug, so I'm fighting it. Okay, so I was letting the good time roll for a minute. Me and the homies was getting down, we was getting money. You know what I'm saying? We was hanging out with the sisters that loved us. We was hanging out in the street. We came up on loot. It was a good time, but as usual with addiction, what happens? Whoop, whoop. At some point, I'm in some handcuffs. I'm in a shootout. I'm getting robbed. I'm robbing. Some strange stuff jumping off that wasn't part of the calculation, right? So, now it's a moment of clarity to think, right? I don't ever want to be in this position again. How many of us have been in a position whereas, oh Lord, if you just get me up out of it, I swear on a stack of Bibles higher than Mount Vesuvius, and every white, black, Latino, Asian, or any other human being on the face of the planet that believes in a God. If you get me out of this, I never do it again. But you say, well, how do I talk about this taste and this drive? Because you didn't rub the lamp and let the genie about the bottle. And unlike the movies, you just can't stuff him or her back in the bottle. You can't. Because what's happening now is it's a feel good out there. You know what I'm saying? It's a feel good out there, and I want it. If sex wasn't encompassed inside of a feel good, nobody would be engaged in it. I'm serious. It's not just, we talk about biological clocks and sensations and desires and all of that, but we never explain, well, what's the root cause of a desire? What is the root cause of a need? How do I arrive at a point where I've told myself, I need this?
To feel good.
Exactly. But what you need is air, water, and food. Those are necessities. You cannot do without those, and it has nothing to do with you. That's what you need for survival. Everything else that comes with that, and before somebody said, well, what about food, clothing, and society? That's not what I'm talking about. But what I'm getting at is most of us operate without a clear understanding of how we operate. So now you begin to want to deal with this because it hasn't become an addiction yet. It's just a momentary feel good. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing it with my crew. I'm doing it with my girls. I'm chilling. It makes me look like I'm doing a slick ass Pall Mall commercial or whatever sex. When you see a beer commercial or a cigarette commercial, you're not just selling a beer. You know what I'm saying? You got me in a club. You got pretty people all around. Everybody's happy. Everybody's involved. So I'm selling it as a good time, subconsciously, right? But then the dirty part about it is that the people who selling it to you know a whole lot more about you than you. Which brings us to the purpose of this class. What is the singular purpose of this class? For you to be put in the driver's seat.
To generate awareness so you can look at your viewpoint and change it.
Absolutely. So I'm fighting it because it hasn't become an addiction yet, right? But what ends up happening is your memory jump in real quick and be like, hold on. I know you remember what it felt like. Oh, you don't remember? Hold on, let me get to you. Ooh. I mean, I'm serious. And so your memory will give you that moment just in case you're not digging my conversation and that's not pulling you. Let me put a little bit something more on your plate. So when I caress you, you understand me? That caress is going to be more intimate and more specific than me just talking to you. So since the talking didn't work and I couldn't move you in because now there's a battle going on. There's a battle that's going on between your memory, your reason, your ego, your drives, and your will. See, these are really waiting in the background because who's going to win and what is we going to do? Either we finna fire it up and get it on, or we finna get on. Right? So, you say, well, Faheem, why do you show this? Because if you don't understand what's going on, which, I mean, have you ever stopped long enough to just ask yourself, why do I like to get high?
Like it.
Well, that was my answer, but back in the days, if anybody remember this, before the whole addiction craze was, you know, people were getting money on it, and before they did their infamous war on drugs, the thing that you have to remember is that that wasn't a viable reason to be accepted inside of the community. You couldn't just say to somebody, I like getting high, because most therapists would disagree with that. You just can't like it. It stems from X, Y, Z, something, something, something. But y'all know me. I just like, hey, look, I'm in Quadrant 9 looking for Klingons, baby.
Vulcan.
You know what I'm saying? I'm on the planet of Vulcan wishing them peace. And it feels wonderful, you know? And because it's not locked to a plausible connective issue, then they didn't even accept that. You got to tell me something about why you're driven, right? But what you may not know, because the other thing about this human mind is when you start talking about these circumstances, you know, hey man, me 5 years old and dad holding me in his arms, kissing my face and giving me an ice cream and a pony, you know what I'm saying, for my 5th birthday, that produces a certain kind of feeling. You know what I'm saying? Daddy creeping in my room at 2 in the morning and screwing me in my butt is another feeling. You get what I'm saying? I see people looking at me strange, but I'm trying to get you to understand something. Without you even recognizing what's going on with you, the circumstances that are shaping your filters are going on in the background. So you begin to tell yourself as a young kid, you begin formulating specific ideological references about what I will and what I won't accept. You ever seen a 7-year-old just mad as fuck? Off the chain, kicking in doors, threatening people, pulling out knives. And the thing that we want to say is, well, we don't have any idea why this is going on. Bullshit. Bullshit.
Or they go so far as to ask, what's wrong with you?
Now, don't get me wrong. There are physiological inconsistencies that can occur, and we call those organic things, right? Where the chemical imbalance is producing a certain viewpoint, a certain behavior pattern, you know, a certain kind of fog. I'm not talking about that though. I'm saying usually when you have somebody that has a specific behavior pattern as it relates to violence, outbursts, and things of that nature, there's something going on that somebody needs to take a look at. But what's happening is it's manifested, right?